Imagine walking into a room where conversations hum like background music, and with a single sentence you make every head turn toward you, not because you're the loudest, but because your words carry weight, clarity, and magnetic presence. What if every time you spoke, people didn't just hear you, they felt you? That's what it means to speak smart. It's not about fancy vocabulary, rehearsed scripts, or trying to sound like someone else. Speaking smart is the art of aligning your words with the psychology of human attention, emotion, and memory, so that your message doesn't vanish into thin air. It leaves a mark, an impression that lingers. In a world full of noise where everyone is talking but few are truly being heard, mastering this skill gives you a superpower. Think about it. Every job you land, every relationship you build, every opportunity you win or lose is connected to how effectively you communicate. Words can open doors or close them, inspire movements or cause misunderstandings, create trust or breed doubt. If you can master the psychology behind communication, you can change not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. The first secret of speaking smart is understanding that people don't just listen to words, they listen to energy, intention, and story. Your tone of voice, your pace, and even your silence speak as loudly as your sentences. Before anyone processes your logic, they subconsciously evaluate your confidence, warmth, and authenticity. Research shows that within just a few seconds, people form judgments about your credibility, trustworthiness, and intelligence based on subtle cues like posture, vocal tone, and eye contact. So when you walk into a conversation, meeting, or interview, you're not just exchanging information, you're influencing emotion. And emotion drives action far more than logic does. People rarely remember every fact you resent, but they will always remember how you made them feel. Powerful communication begins with clarity. Most people speak to express themselves, but the truly impactful communicators speak to create understanding. They tailor their language to their audience. They ask themselves, what does this person truly need to hear, and how can I say it in a way that resonates with them? Speaking smart is not about sounding intelligent for the sake of ego. It's about making your message so clear, so vivid, and so emotionally compelling that your listeners can see themselves in your words. Have you ever listened to someone who speaks in a way that makes you think, this person really gets me? That's because they are not just speaking, they're mirroring your thoughts, validating your experiences, and guiding you to a better version of your own ideas. Storytelling is one of the most powerful tools in smart communication. Our brains are wired for stories. They are ancient carriers of knowledge, survival strategies, and shared meaning. A well-told story grabs attention, builds emotional connection, and makes information memorable. When you speak in a dry, list-like manner, your audience's mind drifts. But when you share a personal experience or a real-life scenario, suddenly they are leaning in. They picture the scene, they feel the emotions, they remember the lesson. For example, instead of saying confidence is important in communication, you might say, I remember the first time I had to give a presentation at work. My heart raced, my hands trembled, and I could feel every pair of eyes on me. I stumbled through my words and left feeling like I had failed, but that experience taught me something. Confidence is not about feeling no fear, it's about speaking despite the fear. Once I realized that, my communication changed forever. That story will stick with your audience long after. Or a generic statement about confidence would have been forgotten. Another key element of speaking smart is psychological framing. How you frame your message determines how it's received. For example, saying we're going to make changes can trigger fear and resistance because people instinctively dislike uncertainty. But if you say we're improving the way we do things to make your job easier, suddenly the same message feels positive and empowering. The words are different, but the impact is worlds apart. Smart communicators understand the emotional impact of their language. They choose words that open minds instead of closing them. They use contrasts, painting a picture of the problem and then the solution, the challenge, and then the reward to guide people through a mental journey. The hook of any conversation is crucial. You have only a few seconds to capture attention before someone's mind starts to wander. A powerful opening line could be a bold statement, a question that sparks curiosity, or a story that immediately draws the listener in. For example, instead of starting a talk with, today I want to talk about communication, imagine saying, did you know that 93% of how people judge you in the first 30 seconds has nothing to do with what you say, but how you say it? That's an attention-grabbing hook because it surprises and intrigues the audience. Speaking smart means knowing how to ignite curiosity and maintain it. Equally important is the power of pauses. Most people underestimate silence. They think they need to fill every gap with words, but silence, when used intentionally, is one of the strongest tools of communication. A well-placed pause draws attention to your next point, gives your audience time to process, and makes your words feel more impactful. Think of great speakers like Barack Obama or Steve Jobs. They knew how to pause at the right moment to let their words sink in. It's not just what you say, it's the space around it that gives it power. Listening is another pillar of speaking smart. People often think communication is just about talking, but the smartest communicators are also the best listeners. Why? Because listening gives you information about what your audience values, what they fear, and what they want. When you listen deeply, you can respond in ways that make others feel understood and valued. Speaking smart is not a monologue, it's a dialogue, even if you're the only one talking. Every nod, every facial expression, every reaction from your audience is feedback you can use to adjust your delivery. There's also the principle of authenticity. People can sense when you're trying too hard, faking confidence, or saying what you think they want to hear. Authenticity is magnetic. When you speak from a place of truth, when your words align with your values, people feel that. You don't need to sound like anyone else. You need to sound like the clearest, most confident version of yourself. Authenticity is not about being perfect. It's about being real, relatable, and honest. When you share not just your successes, but your struggles, your audience connects with you on a human level. That connection is the foundation of trust. Speaking smart also requires emotional intelligence. This means being aware of your own emotions and those of others and adjusting your communication accordingly. If you walk into a tense room and start speaking with high energy and jokes, you'll come across as tone deaf. But if you acknowledge the tension and speak with empathy, you'll earn respect. Emotional intelligence is about reading the room, adapting your tone, and finding the emotional wavelength that resonates with your audience. Lastly, remember this. Communication is not about perfection, it's about connection. You don't need to use big words to sound smart, you need to use the right words to make people feel something. When you speak with clarity, empathy, and confidence, you automatically sound intelligent because your message lands. People don't remember how many words you used or how flawlessly you spoke. They remember whether you inspired them, helped them see something differently, or gave them the courage to take action. Speaking smart is a skill you can develop with awareness and practice. It starts with knowing yourself, your values, your message, your strengths, and then learning how to deliver that message in a way that resonates with others. Over the next sections, we will go deeper into the psychology, techniques, and habits that will transform you into a communicator who doesn't just speak, but moves people. Because in the end, speaking smart is not about showing how intelligent you are, it's about making your audience feel empowered, understood, and motivated to act. Before words ever leave your lips, your communication has already begun. People feel your energy long before they process your message. The way you walk into a room, the expression on your face, the way you hold your body, all of it broadcasts a silent signal. Here's who I am. Here's how confident I feel. Here's how much I believe in what I'm about to say. Speaking smart is not just about language, it's about the inner state that drives your voice. If your mind is cluttered with doubt, insecurity, or fear, no amount of perfectly chosen words will land as powerfully as you want them to. That's why every great communicator starts by mastering the inner game, the psychology of confidence, presence, and emotional control. Let's face it, fear is the biggest barrier to powerful communication. The fear of judgment, rejection, or failure makes people hold back, rush their words, or overthink what they're saying. Maybe you felt it, that pounding heart, dry throat, and anxious spiral before speaking up in a meeting or introducing yourself in a group. Here's the truth, that fear is normal. It's simply your brain trying to protect you from social pain, which it perceives as a real threat. But fear doesn't have to control you. Speaking smart begins with shifting your mindset about communication. Instead of thinking, I hope they like me, or I hope I don't mess up, think I have something valuable to share and my job is to serve the listener. That single shift, from self-focus to service, removes the pressure to perform and replaces it with a sense of purpose. The best communicators are not those who are fearless, but those who have learned how to use their fear as fuel. That nervous energy is a sign that you care. Instead of fighting it, channel it. Stand tall, take a slow breath, and think, this energy means I'm alive, I'm present, I'm ready. Professional speakers, actors, and leaders feel nerves every time, but they've learned to interpret those nerves as excitement rather than fear. A simple trick is to label the feeling. Instead of saying, I'm nervous, say, I'm excited. This shifts your brain from a threat state to an opportunity state. You'll sound more enthusiastic, confident, and compelling. Presence is another cornerstone of speaking smart. Presence means being fully in the moment, not lost in your head, not rehearsing your next line, but truly connected to the people in front of you. Presence is magnetic because it's rare. Most people are distracted, scrolling on their phones or mentally planning their next move, but when someone is fully present, we feel it. They look us in the eye, they listen without interrupting, and they respond thoughtfully. You can cultivate presence by practicing mindfulness, learning to notice your breath, your body, and the emotions in the room. When you're present, your audience feels seen, heard, and valued. That alone makes your words land more deeply. Confidence is often misunderstood. People think it means never doubting yourself or always knowing exactly what to say, but real confidence is simply the belief that no matter what happens, you can handle it. It's not about being perfect, it's about being resilient. If you forget a line, you can laugh and continue. If someone disagrees, you can listen and respond calmly. Confidence grows through action. It's built every time you step up and speak, even if your voice shakes. The more you practice, the more your brain rewires itself to see speaking not as a threat, but as a skill you can master. One powerful way to build inner confidence is to focus on your wins. Most people remember every time they stumbled, but they forget the moments when they communicated well. Keep a mental or written record of times you spoke up and made an impact, when your idea was accepted, when someone thanked you for your insight, when you told a story that made people laugh or think. These memories are proof that you can communicate effectively. Revisit them before important conversations or presentations. Remind yourself, I've done this before and I can do it again. Body language is another reflection of your inner state. If you stand slouched, avoid eye contact, or fidget, you send signals of uncertainty, even if your words are strong. But when you stand tall, shoulders relaxed, and move with calm confidence, you project authority and trustworthiness. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about aligning your body with the message you want to send. Practice grounding yourself, plant your feet firmly, breathe into your diaphragm, and allow your gestures to flow naturally from your message. Open gestures, palms visible, arms uncrossed, signal openness and honesty. Controlled movements show that you're focused, not frantic. Your voice is one of the most powerful tools you have, and how you use it can make the difference between sounding unsure and sounding compelling. A strong voice doesn't mean being loud, it means being clear, warm, and varied. Monotone voices bore people, while voices with energy, rhythm, and pauses keep them engaged. Practice speaking with intentionality, emphasize key words, slow down at important moments, and use silence to add weight. Remember, pauses are power. They give your audience time to absorb your words, and they give you time to breathe and think. Another part of mastering the inner game is learning to reframe failure. Most people avoid speaking up because they fear making mistakes. But mistakes are inevitable, and they're often what make us relatable. Think about your favorite speaker or leader. Chances are they've shared stories of failure or vulnerability. Why? Because vulnerability builds connection. When you're willing to be imperfect, people trust you more. Instead of aiming to be flawless, aim to be real. If you stumble over a word, smile and continue. If you forget a point, say, "Let me backtrack for a moment," and keep going. Audiences don't expect perfection, they expect authenticity. Emotional intelligence, EQ, plays a huge role here. Speaking smart is as much about reading the emotional state of others as it is about expressing your own ideas. High EQ communicators pay attention to subtle cues, the tone of someone's response, their facial expressions, their energy level. They adjust their delivery based on what the audience needs. If someone looks confused, they clarify. If the room feels tense, they use humor or empathy to ease it. This flexibility shows that you're not just talking at people, you're connecting with them. Preparation is also part of the inner game. When you know your material, your confidence soars. But preparation doesn't mean memorizing every word. It means knowing your key points, your stories, and your structure so well that you can speak naturally. Over-preparing can actually make you sound robotic, while under-preparing makes you sound scattered. The sweet spot is mastery through understanding. Ask yourself, what's the core message I want them to remember? What emotion do I want to leave them with? Then practice delivering it in different ways so you can adapt on the spot if needed. Visualization is another powerful tool. Before an important conversation or speech, close your eyes and imagine the outcome you want. See yourself standing tall, speaking confidently, and connecting with your audience. Imagine them nodding, smiling, and being moved by your words. Visualization primes your brain to create that reality. Athletes use this technique before big games. Communicators can use it before big moments. Finally, speaking smart requires a growth mindset. You won't become a master communicator overnight. It's a lifelong skill, and every conversation is practice. Instead of criticizing yourself for every mistake, ask, what did I learn? How can I improve next time? Over time, you'll notice that moments that used to terrify you, introducing yourself to strangers, giving presentations, speaking on camera, become opportunities to shine. Your inner world shapes your outer voice. If you cultivate calm, confidence, and clarity within yourself, people will feel it the moment you speak. When your words come from a place of genuine belief and emotional alignment, they carry a power that no script or technique can replicate. In the next section, we'll go deeper into the psychology of the audience, because once you master your inner state, the next step to speaking smart is mastering the minds of the people you're speaking to. The moment you begin to speak, your words enter someone else's world. A world full of thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and distractions. The difference between being heard and being ignored lies in how well you understand that world. Communication is not about throwing words out and hoping they land. It's about designing your message to fit the mental and emotional landscape of your audience. Speaking smart means becoming a kind of mind reader, not by manipulating people, but by understanding their needs, their fears, and their motivations so deeply that your words feel like they were meant just for them. Think about the last time someone said something that truly resonated with you. It probably wasn't because they used complex language or impressive facts. It was because they seemed to get you. They said what you were already thinking or feeling but hadn't fully expressed. That's the power of audience psychology. When you speak in a way that aligns with what matters most to the listener, you capture their attention instantly. People are not primarily listening to you, they are listening for themselves. Every audience, whether it's one person across a table or 1,000 people in a stadium, silently asks, why should I care? To answer that question, you need to understand 3 fundamental truths about human attention. First, attention is scarce. Our brains are constantly bombarded with information, and we filter out anything that feels irrelevant or boring. Second, attention is emotional. We pay attention to things that make us feel something: curiosity, surprise, excitement, fear, hope. Third, attention is selfish. People are naturally focused on their own problems, desires, and goals. If your words don't connect to those things, they will tune you out. This is why speaking smart starts with knowing your audience. Ask yourself, what keeps them awake at night? What problems are they trying to solve? What dreams are they chasing? What fears hold them back? When you can answer these questions, you can craft messages that feel relevant and personal. For example, if you're speaking to a group of entrepreneurs, you might say, if you've ever stared at your sales numbers and thought, I'm doing everything right, but something's not working, you're not alone. That sentence instantly connects because it acknowledges their real-world struggles. Another key element of audience psychology is understanding belief systems. Every person has a set of beliefs about how the world works, and those beliefs act like filters. If your message clashes with those beliefs too strongly, it will be rejected, no matter how logical it is. Instead of trying to force people to accept something new, meet them where they are. Start with what they already believe, and then gradually introduce new perspectives. For example, if you're trying to convince a team to embrace change, don't start by saying, everything we're doing is wrong. Instead say, we've done great work to get here. Now we have a chance to take it to the next level. You're aligning with their pride and then guiding them forward. Storytelling is one of the most effective ways to bridge this gap. When you tell a story, you bypass the audience's logical defenses and speak directly to their emotions. Stories invite people to imagine themselves in your narrative. If you describe a challenge you face, they think about their own challenges. If you share how you overcame it, they start to believe they can too. The key is to tell stories that mirror the audience's experiences. A story about a high-level corporate negotiation might not resonate with a group of students, but a story about OVE, overcoming self-doubt before an exam, would. To speak smart, you also need to understand attention design. Attention is like a spotlight. It can only shine on one thing at a time, and it moves quickly. If you want people to stay engaged, you need to constantly give their brains something to focus on. That's why powerful communicators use variety, shifting between stories, questions, examples, and statements. If you talk in the same tone and structure for too long, people's minds will drift. But if you suddenly ask, have you ever had a moment where you wanted to speak but your voice got stuck? You pull them back in. Another way to design attention is by using curiosity. The human brain loves puzzles and unanswered questions. Start with a question or a statement that makes people think, wait, what do you mean? For example, there's one mistake you're making in every conversation and you don't even know it yet. That line makes people want to keep listening because they need to know the answer. Curiosity acts like a mental hook that keeps the audience invested in your message. When it comes to memory, the brain doesn't remember everything you say. In fact, most of what you say will be forgotten within minutes unless you highlight what matters. Smart speakers use repetition, structure, and emotion to make key points stick. They say things like, if you remember one thing from this talk, let it be this. This signals to the brain, pay attention, this is important. They also use contrast to make points more memorable. For example, the difference between a good communicator and a great one is simple. Good communicators inform, great communicators transform. Emotion is the glue of memory. People might forget your exact words, but they will remember how you made them feel. That's why emotional targeting is crucial. Ask yourself, what emotion do I want to leave my audience with? If you want them to feel inspired, share stories of resilience and victory. If you want them to feel urgency, describe what happens if they don't act. Use vivid language to paint pictures in their minds. Don't just say, this is important. Say, imagine waking up tomorrow and the opportunity you've been waiting for is gone because you stayed silent today. Another powerful psychological tool is social proof. People are influenced by what others are doing or believing. If you say companies like Google and Apple use this exact communication framework, people are more likely to pay attention because they trust those names. Similarly, phrases like thousands of people have tried this strategy and seen results create a sense of safety and credibility. But here's the thing, ethical communication matters. Speaking smart is not about manipulating or tricking people into agreeing with you. It's about creating understanding, connection, and positive influence. You're not trying to control minds, you're trying to open them. The best communicators respect their audience's intelligence and autonomy. They don't say, you must do this, but rather, here's something that could help you. Decide for yourself. To truly connect with an audience, you need to speak to 3 layers of their mind: the head, the heart, and the gut. The head wants logic, facts, and clarity. The heart wants emotion, meaning, and story. The gut wants trust. It wants to feel that you're authentic and have their best interests in mind. When you speak to all 3, your message becomes irresistible. Think of some of the greatest speeches in history: Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream, Steve Jobs' Stanford commencement address, or Malala Yousafzai's speech at the UN. What do they have in common? They speak to the head with clarity and purpose, to the heart with passion and story, and to the gut with authenticity and conviction. That's why those words live on decades later. As you master audience psychology, you begin to realize that communication is not about you, it's about them. When you shift from how do I sound smart to how can I make them feel understood, inspired, and empowered, everything changes. You stop worrying about being perfect and start focusing on being effective. In the next section, we will move from understanding psychology to mastering strategic expression, the specific tools, structures, and techniques that transform good communication into powerful, persuasive communication. Once you understand your inner state and your audience's psychology, the next step is strategic expression, the deliberate use of structure, language, and delivery techniques to make your words land with power. Strategic expression is where science meets art. It's where you stop just talking and start crafting your communication so it influences not just what people think, but also how they feel, decide, and act. Let's be clear, persuasion is not about manipulation, it's about clarity, alignment, and trust. If you can clearly articulate an idea, align it with your audience's needs, and build trust while doing it, your words will carry extraordinary weight. Think of the most compelling speakers you've heard, whether it's a TED Talk, a business leader, or even a friend telling a story at a party. What made their words memorable? They likely had a strong opening, a clear structure, emotional highs and lows, and a memorable ending. These are not random occurrences, they're strategic choices. The power of framing. The first tool in strategic expression is framing. How you frame a message determines how it's perceived. 2 people can deliver the exact same information, but one will inspire action while the other gets ignored, all because of framing. For example, if a manager says we have to work late again because our team is behind, it feels like punishment. But if they say, we're so close to achieving something great, and if we give a little extra effort tonight, we can finish strong, it feels like a challenge worth taking on. Same facts, different frame, different impact. A great frame answers the audience's unspoken questions. Why should I listen? Why does this matter to me? What's in it for me? A simple way to frame your message is the 3C rule: context, challenge, and change. Start by setting the context why this conversation is happening. Define the challenge, what problem exists or what opportunity we risk missing, and then describe the change, what action or mindset shift will create a better outcome. Structure that sticks. The human brain craves structure. When your message is scattered, people can't follow or remember it. Smart communicators use simple frameworks to keep their message clear and memorable. Here are a few. The rule of 3. Our brains love patterns, and 3 is the simplest, most memorable number for organizing ideas. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. used the phrase, "I have a dream," multiple times, each time painting a new picture in 3-part ideas. If you're presenting, structure your points as 3 key takeaways instead of overwhelming people with a long list. Problem, emotion, solution. Start by describing the problem, tap into the emotion it creates, and then present the solution. This approach works because people care more about solving emotional pain than abstract issues. For example, instead of saying our software saves time, say most people waste hours every week doing repetitive tasks that drain their energy. Our tool eliminates that frustration and gives you your time back. Story, strategy, action. Begin with a relatable story to grab attention, extract the key lesson or strategy from it, and end with a clear action your audience can take. Stories make the message emotional. Strategy makes it practical. Action makes it memorable. The art of contrast. Another tool is contrast, the ability to show 2 opposing ideas side by side to highlight the difference. Our brains are wired to notice differences. Instead of saying this method is effective, you can say most people waste hours preparing presentations that no one remembers, but with this method, your message will stick in just 5 minutes of prep. The contrast between failure and success makes the benefit stand out. Contrast can also be used in your delivery. For example, varying your tone and pacing keeps your audience's attention. If you speak at the same speed and volume for too long, people tune out. But if you slow down, then suddenly emphasize a key phrase, it grabs attention. Contrast between quiet moments and energetic bursts creates a rhythm that feels alive. Strategic questions. One of the most powerful persuasion tools is the question. Questions engage the brain in a way that statements don't. When you ask, "Have you ever felt like your voice doesn't matter in a meeting?" the audience can't help but think of their own experiences. Questions create mental participation even in a silent audience. Use them to guide thinking. What would it feel like if every word you said carried impact? This not only sparks curiosity, but also frames the audience's mindset before you deliver your point. Anchoring and repetition. To make your message stick, you need anchors, phrases or ideas you repeat to create memory hooks. Think of famous slogans like "Just do it." Anchors work because repetition combined with emotion imprints the message in the brain. In your speech or conversation, repeat your core message at key moments, at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end. For example, if your theme is clarity beats volume, you might say it 3 times in different contexts, each time reinforcing the idea. The power of metaphor. Metaphors are like mental shortcuts. They take something complex and make it instantly understandable by comparing it to something familiar. For instance, instead of saying you need to simplify your presentation, you could say, think of your presentation like a suitcase. If you overpack, it becomes heavy and hard to carry, but if you only pack essentials, you move easily. People remember the suitcase image far more than the abstract advice to simplify. Nonverbal persuasion. Strategic expression isn't just about words, it's about the whole package: your tone, gestures, posture, and facial expressions. Studies show that more than 50% of communication is nonverbal. If your body language contradicts your words, people will trust your body language. For example, saying, "I'm confident this will work," while looking at the floor and crossing your arms sends mixed signals. Instead, match your body to your words. Stand tall, make natural eye contact, and use open gestures. The power of pauses. Few tools are as underused and as powerful as the pause. Silence creates anticipation. It makes people lean in. When you pause after a powerful statement, it gives your words time to sink in. For example, saying words can change the world, but only if they're heard, followed by a pause, gives the audience a moment to feel the weight of the statement. Pauses also give you time to breathe and collect your thoughts, which makes you sound more confident. Handling resistance. No matter how well you speak, sometimes people will resist your message. Maybe they disagree, maybe they're skeptical, or maybe they're simply distracted. Smart communicators know how to handle resistance without getting defensive. One technique is acknowledge and redirect. For example, if someone says, "I don't think this approach will work," you can respond, "That's a fair point. Let's explore where it might work and where it might not." This shows you're open-minded, which actually increases your credibility. Closing with impact. The way you end a conversation or presentation is just as important as how you start. The recency effect tells us that people remember the last thing they hear more vividly. That means your closing lines should be strong, clear, and inspiring. Don't just end with, "That's all I have." Instead, summarize your core message, tie it back to the audience's needs, and leave them with a powerful thought or call to action. For example, remember, your words have power. Every conversation is a chance to lead, inspire, and create change. Speak with intention and watch what happens. Strategic delivery in different settings. Strategic expression adapts to the setting. In a one-on-one conversation, your tone and body language should be more personal and intimate. In a group setting, you need to project more energy and use bigger gestures to reach everyone. On camera, you need to be even more expressive because screens reduce emotional impact. Smart communicators adjust their delivery like a skilled musician adjusts their instrument depending on the room. Speaking smart is not just about knowing these tools, it's about using them intentionally. You can practice framing by rewriting common messages in different ways. You can practice the rule of 3 by breaking down your ideas into 3 memorable points. You can practice pauses by recording yourself and listening for places where silence could add drama. Over time, these techniques become second nature. In the next section, we will bring it all together with a practical integration blueprint. We'll explore daily habits, practice routines, and long-term strategies that will help you master this art for life. You've now explored the inner game of confidence, the psychology of your audience, and the strategic tools of persuasion. But here's the truth. Knowing these principles is not enough. Just like reading about swimming won't teach you how to swim, reading about communication won't transform you unless you practice. Speaking smart is not a one-time skill, it's a lifelong craft. The greatest communicators are not born. They are shaped through daily habits, reflection, and deliberate practice. If you want your words to consistently resonate, inspire, and persuade, you need a blueprint for integrating everything you've learned into your everyday life. This final section is about building that blueprint, a communication mastery system that ensures you keep growing, evolving, and speaking with impact. Start with self-awareness. The foundation of powerful communication is knowing yourself. Every day, ask, how do I come across when I speak? Do you sound confident or rushed? Do you maintain eye contact or do you look away? Are your words aligned with your true thoughts or do you hesitate because of fear? Self-awareness is like a mirror. It helps you see the gaps between how you want to sound and how you actually sound. Record yourself in casual conversations or while practicing. Sing a speech. You'll be surprised how many unconscious habits you catch, like saying too often, speaking too fast, or not pausing enough. Once you notice them, you can begin to change them. Another layer of self-awareness is understanding your communication style. Are you naturally a storyteller? Do you use humor? Are you great at explaining concepts? Embrace your strengths while working on your weaknesses. The goal is not to copy someone else, but to refine the best version of your own voice. Build a vocabulary of impact. Speaking smart doesn't mean using complicated words. It means choosing words that are precise, vivid, and emotionally charged. Every day, notice the words people respond to. Pay attention to how powerful speakers choose their language. Read widely, books, speeches, articles, and make note of phrases or metaphors that stick with you. Over time, you'll build a mental library of language tools you can draw from. But remember, clarity always beats complexity. Great communicators don't speak to impress, they speak to express. They use words that are simple enough to be understood but powerful enough to evoke feeling. Practice rewriting complex ideas into simple, striking sentences. For example, instead of saying, "Our project requires a high level of collaboration and efficiency to succeed," you could say, "We succeed only when we move as one team, fast and focused." 3. Daily voice and body practice. Your voice is like a muscle. It strengthens with training. Spend 5 to 10 minutes each day practicing vocal exercises, humming to warm up your vocal cords, reading a passage out loud with different tones, or practicing projection by speaking clearly across a room. Record yourself and play it back to hear your tone, pace, and energy. Are you rushing? Are you monotone? Adjust until your voice feels alive and dynamic. Equally important is your body language. Stand in front of a mirror and practice open, confident postures. Practice gestures that feel natural and supportive of your words. Your body is an amplifier for your message. When your gestures, posture, and voice align with your words, you radiate authenticity. Storytelling journals. To speak with power, you need a bank of personal stories, lessons, and examples you can draw from. Start keeping a storytelling journal. Every time something interesting happens, a challenge you overcame, a conversation that taught you something, a small victory, write it down. Later, think about what lesson or universal truth is hidden in that story. The more stories you collect, the easier it will be to make your communication feel alive and relatable. Great communicators don't make up stories, they harvest them from real life. Your own experiences, no matter how ordinary they seem, can become powerful metaphors when told with authenticity. The 5-minute daily reflection. At the end of each day, reflect on one conversation you had. Ask yourself, did I listen fully? Did I speak with clarity and intention? Did I create connection? Or did I just exchange words? This simple reflection sharpens your awareness over time. Communication isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Even small improvements, when made consistently, add up to massive transformation. 6. Embrace feedback and iteration. The fastest way to grow as a communicator is to seek feedback. Ask trusted friends, mentors, or colleagues. How do I come across when I speak? What's one thing I could do to be more engaging or clear? Feedback might be uncomfortable, but it's the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Every great speaker has gone through this process of refinement. When you receive feedback, don't take it as criticism, take it as data, use it to experiment. Maybe you need to slow down your pace, use more stories, or ask more questions. Treat every conversation as a lab where you test, learn, and grow. The 1% rule: speaking smart doesn't require huge overnight changes. Instead, focus on 1% daily improvements. Each day, commit to improving just one small aspect of your communication. Maybe today you practice pausing after key points. Tomorrow you focus on varying your tone. The day after you tell a short story during a conversation. Over weeks and months, these tiny improvements compound into mastery. 8. Learn from masters, watch great speakers, TED Talks, famous speeches, interviews, and study their techniques. Notice how they open, how they use their hands when they pause, how they end. You don't have to copy them, but you can learn patterns that work. For instance, listen to how someone like Steve Jobs presented new products. Simple, clear, and with a narrative that built excitement. Or study Barack Obama's cadence and pauses. Absorb these lessons and adapt them to your own style. So practice in real conversations. The best practice for communication is not on a stage, it's in daily life. Every conversation is an opportunity to test what you've learned. Instead of giving quick, forgettable responses, speak with intention. Try framing your points clearly, using stories, or asking thought-provoking questions. Pay attention to how people respond. Did their eyes light up? Did they lean in? Did they ask for more? These are signs that your words are landing. 10. The art of silence. Speaking smart also means knowing when not to speak. Silence is a tool that creates space for others to open up. It shows confidence. You don't need to fill every gap with words to feel important. In conversations, try pausing for 2-3 seconds before responding. This not only makes you seem thoughtful, but also allows your listener to feel heard. 11. Master the one powerful idea principle. Every time you speak, ask yourself, what is the one idea I want them to remember? Most people try to say too much and end up saying nothing memorable. Smart communicators strip their message down to the essence. Whether it's a speech, a meeting, or a casual talk, if you can deliver one powerful, sticky idea, you've succeeded. Develop emotional resonance. Words alone won't move people, emotion does. To build emotional resonance, you need to be vulnerable, honest, and human. Don't be afraid to show your passion, your struggles, or your enthusiasm. Emotion is contagious. When you speak with genuine feeling, others feel it too. If you're not emotionally connected to what you're saying, your audience won't be either. 3. A lifelong commitment to growth. Speaking smart is not a destination, it's a journey. There's always another level of mastery. Even the world's best communicators continue to refine their craft. The good news? Every conversation, every presentation, every moment you speak is a chance to practice. The more you apply these principles, the more natural they become. Over time, you'll notice that people start listening more, respecting your words, and being influenced by your ideas, not because you're louder, but because you're smarter with your communication. Third, the legacy of your voice. Think about this. Your voice is part of your legacy. The way you speak, the stories you tell, and the words you choose will shape how people remember you. You don't need to be famous to have an impact. Your words can inspire a coworker, encourage a friend, or guide your family. When you learn to communicate with power and purpose, you don't just improve your own life, you elevate everyone around you. Closing thought. Speaking smart is not about impressing others, it's about connecting with them. It's about using the psychology of attention, emotion, and memory to create moments that matter. When you master your inner mindset, understand your audience, and apply strategic tools with intention, your communication becomes magnetic. People don't just hear you, they feel you, remember you, and are moved by you. From this moment on, challenge yourself to speak with purpose every day. Choose words that build, not break. Ask questions that spark thought, not silence. Tell stories that light a fire in people's hearts. Because when you master the psychology of powerful communication, your words become more than sound. They become catalysts for change,